I finally got around to watching the absolute outrageous SJW triggering box office record smashing Disney, Marvel, and fake Star Wars Trek smashing modern classic. I squeezed all that in. This is Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun is one of those 80s of all 80s movies with the 80s soundtrack and everything that helped define an era. Full disclosure, I never really liked it. To be perfectly honest, it was not my kind of movie at that era. I was totally into science fiction. I was totally into Star Trek. I was into Star Wars. I was into all sorts of stuff. I did like some of those 80s movies, you know, the romantic comedies that I saw. I liked Red Dawn a whole lot. But really, Top Gun, really about a bunch of young wannabe super soldiers having a pissing contest, pardon the expression. It just really didn't. I did not cry when Goose died. It was not a devastating part of my childhood. It was just not something that, yeah, I watched it. It was a good movie. It was not something that, you know, consumed my soul. So when all of a sudden they're going to do Top Gun Maverick, I was like, now we're really living in fascinating times, because as we've seen, the Marxist dialectic destroy storytelling by making every single character is required to check certain Marxist boxes, and if they're not screaming about their oppression, they don't know what to do with them. We're seeing a bit of a pushback, or at least an alternate sort of route in the marketplace. And I'm going to use 3 examples for this because they all do this well, but they do it differently. One is Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai totally respects its history. It's better than any of the Karate Kid movies, in my opinion. It was another franchise, like Top Gun, that I saw the Karate Kid movies. It wasn't like, it's way better now because of the work they've done on Cobra Kai. With the blending of the old and the new characters, with the continuity, they really brought it together as a whole universe and brought it in a direction of greater seriousness. Another one that has done this successfully, continuing a franchise after a long time, has been Ghostbusters Afterlife. Ghostbusters Afterlife is a clear passing of the torch to a younger group. Some folks didn't like that because there wasn't as much of the original characters in it as you would have liked. But it does a really good job of paying complete homage and tribute to the original, bridging the gap, having enough of the original characters back for long enough to be passing the torch. And it introduced characters that were managed to be diverse while still being human. They were not constantly repeating Marxist catechetical points. Rather, they're just real people. And so it actually worked really well. With Top Gun Maverick, it didn't feel like you weren't doing either of those things. You were not doing the Cobra Kai thing of building and expanding onto a universe going forward. You weren't doing the Ghostbusters Afterlife with just having Cruise and Iceman appear at the end or something like that. It really is a full-on continuity of that original movie. The younger, newer characters introduced, they are all interesting, but they're not as multi-dimensional because it's Top Gun. They're all fighter pilots struggling to be the best and prove that they're the best. Really, they're just the same people that from the original Top Gun, the next generation. So you could conceivably do another Top Gun movie with the newer cast members, but I don't think that there's the same hunger for that there could be for other franchises, like Cobra Kai has done. Potentially Ghostbusters Afterlife could. I don't know if it could really overcome that the nostalgia was such a big part of that. But Top Gun, if you made about these new pilots, you probably would get enough viewership and sell enough tickets now to make it interesting, because Top Gun Maverick has been so huge that in itself might bring people to a new incarnation. But really, it feels like Top Gun didn't end until this movie, because Top Gun Maverick it's a story you couldn't have done back then because you needed the 30 years in between them, plus you needed the older Tom Cruise, because it's a whole lifetime career in the military story arc that really just the wrapping up, finally coming full circle of the Goose storyline now with his son Rooster. You couldn't have done that any sooner than now and done it this well, but it really is about that story. And so it's sort of the inevitable sort of sequel to that story if you were going to just to show how this worked out long term in the lives of these people beyond just the first movie. So, and it does it so absolutely super well, like Cobra Kai. But personally, I cared more about these people in Top Gun Maverick than I did in the original Top Gun. And part of that, even for me, was, it's the nostalgia. It was not one of my favorite movies back then, but it's cool to see them bring it back, and when they can do it well and honor something that you do remember from then, like Cobra Kai made The Karate Kid better, you can get something wonderful like Top Gun Maverick that tells this complete story. It actually finishes the story arc, the whole redemption arc of having lost the father, redeemed in the son, the friend who feels guilty, being able to come to healing with that, and the incredible miracle of being able to have Val Kilmer, despite all the things he's going through in real life, to bring that into the sphere of the fiction to explain his condition in the film, to allow him to appear. That just, talk about a capstone of a career. He'd been in some things, but many of us first remember him as in Top Gun as Iceman. Of course, he'll always be Doc Holliday to me from later on. But to a complete lifetime story arc that hits all of these points, both from real life, from fiction, brings it all together and gives it this closure. You could go on with the younger cast. You don't really need to. It's like you needed to finish this story, and you did it so completely well. I loved the film. Again, I liked it better than the original. This is how you make a real film about real people. I can't say it often enough. When you actually focus on people that have real life problems, human problems, it doesn't matter whether you're black or white or female, whatever, you should be able to empathize with another human being. The whole nonsense of someone's got to look like me and want to have sex with the same people I do, or I can't familiarize with them, is ridiculous. And it doesn't matter whether you're giving us women combat pilots appearing in Top Gun. It doesn't matter what race they are. Oddly, the question never comes up who's having sex with whom and what their preferences are. Imagine that, because it isn't relevant to the human story. Only Marxists think that you have to check a box in order to be on a screen, because they, Marxists, look at everyone and everything in the world through the lens of their Marxism. For them, the no fictional story is approachable to them unless it fits neatly within a Marxist dialectic. That's why they don't count anything that is pre-Marxist or is not woke enough right now. But I talk about that a lot. But these are three that have done an excellent job. Cobra Kai, Ghostbusters Afterlife, now Top Gun Maverick. What a good job of bringing this back and doing it well. I wish enough corporations would take notice and stop burning down, destroying, and trashing all of the fictional mythos and history and heritage that we have in our culture, rebooting stuff to just be garbage, of garbage, by garbage, and for garbage.